The world around us is always in motion, constantly shifting, evolving, and threatening to collapse into chaos. We are trained to believe that our role is to impose order on this world, to grasp every fleeting moment and hold it tight, as if we could make time stop or bend reality to our will. Yet, for all our efforts to control, we often find ourselves overwhelmed by the very things we try to keep in line. The harder we clutch at life, the more it slips through our fingers. It is as if we are caught in an eternal struggle between what we think we can control and what we know deep down we never could. Consider the individual who spends their entire life chasing after control, controlling their career, their relationships, their emotions, even their image in the eyes of others. They move through life as though success and happiness are just one more well-executed plan away. But no matter how much they arrange the pieces, life seems to throw them unexpected curveballs. Relationships falter despite all the work put into them. Projects fall through at the last moment. Personal happiness is fleeting, and every attempt to grasp it tight only seems to push it further out of reach. Yet they keep going, believing that if they just push a little harder, everything will fall into place. This is not a rare case. It is the experience of many of us. We are conditioned to think that life's fulfillment and peace are rewards we earn through relentless control, through effort and persistence. We think that, by sheer will, we can force everything into alignment. But when things don't work out as we expect, we feel lost, frustrated, and deeply disappointed. We may even ask ourselves, "What's wrong with me? Why can't I get it right?" The tension in this struggle is palpable. It is a tension between the illusion of control, the belief that we are the masters of our fate, and the reality that so much of life is beyond our grasp. We've all experienced the sensation of being caught in the grip of circumstances we can't influence, of being overwhelmed by forces beyond our understanding or control. And yet, even in these moments, we cling to the idea that if we just try hard enough, we can regain the reins. This battle, this internal war between effort and surrender, creates a subtle but constant stress in our lives. It is a tension that many of us don't even consciously recognize, but which influences how we approach everything from work to relationships, from personal goals to emotional well-being. The truth is that much of the suffering we endure comes not from the things that happen to us, but from the way we relate to them. We think we need to control them, to master them. But in trying to do so, we often become slaves to them. The illusion of control is, in many ways, a defense mechanism. It protects us from the terrifying idea that we are powerless, that life can slip out of our hands at any moment. To believe that we can control our lives gives us a sense of security, a false sense of mastery over our existence. But this illusion, as comforting as it may seem, is the very thing that keeps us stuck in a cycle of striving and suffering. We may never fully realize how much energy we waste fighting against the natural flow of life. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, explored this idea in depth. He spoke of the importance of emotional detachment, the ability to let go of our attachment to external outcomes, to release the grip we hold on people, situations, and things. Jung believed that our psychological health depends not on controlling the external world, but on learning to control our relationship with it. Emotional detachment, for Jung, is not about abandoning life or withdrawing from the world. It is about releasing the need to control everything and allowing ourselves to experience life as it is, without trying to force it into a preconceived mold. Jung argued that much of our suffering stems from our attachment to the external world, the things we believe we need to make us happy or secure. Our identity becomes entangled with these things: a job title, a relationship, a material possession. We mistakenly think that these things define us. But the truth, as Jung suggested, is that they don't. Our true self lies beyond these attachments, beyond the roles we play and the things we own. It lies in the depth of our own being, in the quiet places of the soul that are untouched by the external world. But we are afraid to let go of these attachments, afraid to lose what we have worked so hard to build. We fear that if we let go, we will be lost, adrift in a world that no longer makes sense. This fear is what keeps us locked in the struggle for control. It is what makes us cling to the illusion of mastery, even as it drains us. The irony is that the more tightly we hold on, the more we suffer. Control, at its core, is a response to fear. It is a way of protecting ourselves from the unknown, from the unpredictable nature of existence. But in trying to protect ourselves, we create a prison of our own making. We build walls around ourselves, walls that limit our freedom and our potential. We end up trapped by our own need to control, unable to move forward or evolve. This is where emotional detachment comes in. Detachment is not the same as apathy. It is not about withdrawing from life or ignoring the things that matter. It is about learning to step back from the frantic, desperate need to control everything. It is about recognizing that we do not need to hold onto everything to be whole. We do not need to cling to our jobs, our relationships, or our material possessions in order to find meaning or happiness. These things may come and go, but the essence of who we are remains constant. The power of emotional detachment is that it frees us from the tyranny of attachment. It allows us to experience life fully without being bound to it. It gives us the ability to observe, to witness the unfolding of events without becoming lost in them. And in doing so, it allows us to discover a deeper, more lasting peace. But how do we begin to detach? How do we start the process of letting go? The first step is recognizing that the need for control is not a sign of strength, but of fear. It is the fear of losing ourselves, of being at the mercy of the unpredictable tides of life. Once we can see this, we begin to understand that letting go is not an act of weakness, but of strength. It is a return to ourselves, a reclaiming of our inner power. When we let go of our need to control, we find that we are no longer at war with the world. We stop fighting the natural flow of life, and instead, we begin to flow with it. We realize that we are not separate from the world, but a part of it. We begin to see the beauty in impermanence, in the fleeting nature of life. The more we let go, the more we begin to experience the world in its fullness, not as something to be conquered, but as something to be embraced. As we close this opening section, we find ourselves at a crossroads. The struggle between holding on and letting go is a constant tension in our lives. We are caught between the desire to control and the need to surrender. The question remains, can we break free from the illusion of control? Can we release our attachments and find the peace that comes with true emotional detachment? The answer, as we will see, lies in our ability to face our deepest fears and to embrace the unknown. The journey toward emotional detachment is not an easy one, but it is one that promises freedom from the internal battles that hold us back. And so, the question becomes, what if the real power doesn't lie in holding tighter, but in letting go? What if the freedom we seek is already within us, waiting for us to stop trying to control everything? At the heart of Carl Jung's work lies the idea that the self is not a singular, easily defined entity, but a vast, complex network of conscious and unconscious forces. The idea of emotional detachment cannot be understood without first grappling with Jung's notion of the shadow, those parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, or avoid. The shadow is the unconscious aspect of our personality that contains all the traits, desires, and emotions we find unacceptable or uncomfortable. It is often hidden from our conscious awareness, lurking beneath the surface, influencing our actions, reactions, and relationships in ways we do not fully understand. To truly understand the power of emotional detachment, we must first confront the fact that much of our suffering comes from the shadow. We cling to external things and people because they offer us a sense of identity, security, and validation. But when we do this, we are not confronting our true selves. Instead, we are constructing a false sense of who we are, a self built on external validation and projections. The more we hold onto these external attachments, the more we ignore the deeper, darker parts of ourselves. We avoid facing the emotions, desires, and fears that make up the shadow. And it is precisely in this avoidance that much of our inner turmoil lies. Jung believed that the path to psychological wholeness is not about repressing or eliminating the shadow, but about integrating it into our conscious self. This process of integration requires emotional detachment. To detach emotionally does not mean to disengage from life or to become indifferent to the world around us. Rather, it means to disengage from the illusion that we are defined by our attachments. It is about recognizing that the external world, the things, the people, the roles, does not define who we are at our core. Our true essence lies deeper, beyond these superficial markers of identity. This detachment is essential because without it, we are bound to live out our lives through the projections of our unconscious mind. We project our unresolved fears, desires, and repressed emotions onto the world around us, seeking to control and manipulate our environment to fit these projections. But no matter how much we try to shape our lives around these projections, they will always fall short of bringing us the peace we seek. We will constantly find ourselves at odds with reality, as our unconscious projections clash with the true nature of the world. Take, for example, someone who is constantly seeking validation from others. Their sense of self-worth is tied to the opinions and approval of those around them. They may be highly successful, but their success is hollow because it is not rooted in their true self. Their self-worth is built on the shifting sands of external validation. They may appear confident, but beneath the surface, they are constantly anxious, constantly striving for more approval, more recognition. They are in a constant state of emotional tension because they have never confronted the shadow, the parts of themselves that are insecure, uncertain, or unworthy. Jung argued that in order to experience true freedom, we must first confront our projections and the shadow that lies behind them. Emotional detachment is the key to this process. When we detach emotionally, we stop reacting to the external world from a place of fear, insecurity, or neediness. We stop seeking validation from others and instead begin to turn inward, confronting the parts of ourselves we have long ignored. The process of detachment allows us to observe our thoughts, emotions, and reactions without becoming entangled in them. We no longer need to identify with every passing feeling or every external event that triggers us. We begin to recognize that we are more than our attachments, more than our projections, and more than the roles we play. In this process, we begin to reconnect with our true self, the self that is not dependent on external circumstances. This true self is not some abstract, distant ideal. It is the essence of who we are when we are free from the constraints of the ego and the shadow. It is the part of us that remains whole and undisturbed, no matter what happens in the external world. But to access this self, we must first embrace the darkness within us, the aspects of ourselves that we fear, reject, or fail to understand. Jung's work with the shadow was not about eradicating these darker aspects of the self, but about integrating them into our conscious awareness. The more we deny or repress these aspects, the more they exert control over us. They influence our thoughts, actions, and relationships in subtle but powerful ways. But when we bring them into the light of consciousness, when we detach from the fear of facing them, they lose their power. They no longer control us from the shadows. Instead, they become part of the whole. We are able to accept ourselves, both the light and the dark, and in doing so, we achieve a deeper sense of wholeness. But how do we begin this process of integration? The first step is to stop resisting. The more we resist our own darkness, the more we feed it. The more we try to control or suppress our fears and insecurities, the stronger they become. Detachment, in this sense, is an act of surrender. It is about letting go of the need to fight against ourselves, to push away the parts of ourselves that we find uncomfortable. It is about embracing the totality of who we are, not just the parts we like or the parts that make us feel good, but the parts that challenge us, frighten us, and make us uncomfortable. As we begin to detach emotionally, we create space for the shadow to be integrated into our conscious awareness. We no longer see it as something to be feared or avoided, but as a natural and essential part of our being. In this space, we can begin to transform our relationship with the shadow. Rather than projecting it onto the world around us, we begin to take responsibility for it. We stop blaming others for the ways in which our unconscious patterns manifest, and we start to see the ways in which our own projections are shaping our reality. This is where Nietzsche's concept of the will to power becomes relevant. Nietzsche believed that human beings are driven by an inherent will to assert themselves and shape the world around them. But true power, according to Nietzsche, comes not from external domination, but from the ability to master oneself. The will to power is the force that drives us to confront our inner darkness, to embrace the totality of our being, and to transcend the limitations of the ego. It is only through this internal mastery, through detaching from the need to control the world, that we can achieve true freedom. But this is not an easy process. It requires courage, humility, and patience. The path to emotional detachment is not about ignoring the world or withdrawing from it, but about stepping back and seeing it for what it is. It is about observing rather than reacting. It is about learning to live with uncertainty, to embrace impermanence, and to understand that control is an illusion. When we detach emotionally, we allow ourselves to experience life as it truly is, free from the distortions of our unconscious fears and desires. In this way, emotional detachment becomes a pathway to personal growth and transformation. By letting go of the need to control, we open ourselves up to a deeper connection with ourselves and with the world around us. We learn to see the truth beneath the surface, to recognize the ways in which our own projections shape our reality, and to embrace the wholeness of who we are. This is the essence of Jung's work, not just as a psychologist, but as a guide to living a deeper, more authentic life. As we continue on this journey of self-discovery, we begin to understand that emotional detachment is not a rejection of life, but an invitation to engage with it more fully. It is through this process that we can truly integrate the shadow and come to know our authentic self. Only then can we find peace, not in the external world, but in the depths of our own being. As we journey through life, we often find ourselves shackled by invisible chains. These chains are made of expectations, attachments, and fears, the things that hold us captive to our illusions of control. We spend so much of our lives trying to hold on to what we think is important: our relationships, our careers, our successes, and our identity. These are the things we define ourselves by, the things we believe we cannot live without. But what if letting go of these things could actually set us free? Imagine for a moment, standing in the middle of a vast and raging storm. The winds are howling, the rain is pouring down in sheets, and the world around you seems to be unraveling. You can see people around you running, frantically trying to control the storm, trying to shield themselves from the chaos. But no matter how hard they try, they cannot stop the storm from coming. It is inevitable, and yet they keep struggling against it. Now, imagine a different scenario. In the midst of the storm, you simply stop running. You stop fighting. You stand still, not because you are resigned, but because you have come to realize that the storm is not your enemy. It is simply part of the world. By standing still, by accepting the storm as it is, you stop resisting it. You stop trying to control it, and in doing so, you find peace amidst the chaos. This is the essence of emotional detachment. It is not about withdrawing from life or abandoning everything that matters to us. It is not about becoming indifferent or numb to the world around us. Instead, it is about learning to let go of the need to control. It is about surrendering the illusion that we can manipulate reality to our will and recognizing that there is a deeper freedom in accepting life as it comes. This is where true emotional freedom lies. In the moment we stop clinging to the idea that we must control everything and instead allow life to unfold naturally, without resistance. The power of emotional detachment comes from this very shift in perspective. When we let go of the need to control, we free ourselves from the constant tension and stress that comes with trying to hold on to things that are not meant to be held. In that moment of surrender, we begin to experience a profound sense of peace. It is as if the weight we have been carrying for so long is suddenly lifted off our shoulders. We realize that in the grand scheme of things, we are not the ones in charge. Life is unpredictable, uncontrollable, and often chaotic, but that does not mean it is meaningless. It is simply a matter of how we relate to it. At first, the idea of letting go may seem terrifying. We may feel as though we are giving up on our dreams, abandoning our goals, or letting go of the things that define us. We might ask ourselves, if I let go of my need to control, who am I? What will become of me? This fear is a natural reaction. Our attachments give us a sense of identity, a sense of purpose. They anchor us to the world, and the thought of losing them can feel like losing ourselves. But the truth is that these attachments are not the foundation of who we are. They are temporary, ever-changing, and often fragile. What we fear losing is not who we truly are, but the image of who we think we should be. Letting go of control does not mean abandoning our goals, our desires, or our ambitions. It means releasing the need to force things to happen on our terms. It means accepting that life may not unfold in the way we imagined, but trusting that it will unfold exactly as it needs to. The irony is that when we let go of our attachment to specific outcomes, we often find that we are able to achieve more than we ever could by clinging to our plans. We stop pushing against the natural flow of things, and instead, we begin to move with it. This is where true power lies, not in forcing, but in flowing. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote extensively about the importance of finding meaning in life, even in the most dire of circumstances. Frankl's philosophy was built on the idea that while we cannot always control our external circumstances, we always have the ability to choose how we respond to them. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl describes how prisoners in concentration camps found meaning even in the midst of unimaginable suffering. This meaning did not come from controlling their environment or their fate, but from detaching emotionally from the circumstances and choosing how they would respond. It was their internal attitude, their emotional detachment, that allowed them to find peace and purpose, even in the most brutal of situations. This idea of emotional detachment as a source of strength is echoed by many philosophers and psychologists throughout history. Nietzsche, for example, spoke of the importance of embracing life in all its chaos and unpredictability. He argued that true strength comes not from trying to control the world, but from accepting it as it is. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power is not about imposing our will on the world around us, but about mastering ourselves. It is about recognizing that the only thing we truly have control over is our response to life's challenges.